Live, live, live. We are live, guys and gals. This is a very special one. It's for Latinos in clinical research. We're gonna do our monthly meetups. They used to be on Zoom, so we're gonna start doing them. We had some issues with Zoom today, so
Hmm.
we're just gonna go forward and do them on StreamYard. So if you're following us on Latinos in Clinical Research, go check it out there. Also, save our sites. That's for the Save Our Sites live streams. This one's kind of about both because this is what we intended to do was to give some feedback or a recap, I guess, of SOS from the perspective of LICR. And the turnout was actually pretty good from the LICR community, no?
Yeah, I think that was really good. We had a lot of also volunteers. Judy, a good amount of people from your neck of the woods came and assisted, and it was very nice. Yeah, there was. Oh, sorry, Judy, we're gonna say something.
No, 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 no. Yeah, no, it was a really good turnout, and I was really excited to see everyone.
Yeah, I think it was great. I mean, as everybody probably knows, with Save Our Sites conference, we came into this collaboration because one of the things that we talk very heavily with LACR and with our monthly audience is that there's not a lot of communication. There's not a lot of, I guess as much space as we'd like for networking, especially for those that are within communities that are more rural, right, and that are of multi-language speaking and all of those things. And so we're really happy to have the opportunity to collaborate with SOS that consists of Dan Sfera, Daniel Fox, and Brad Hightower. And so it was great to come together because we had people from all over the industry, especially those that more than likely probably wouldn't be joining conferences because of the pricing. We made it extremely cheap for people to be able to attend. So I think we got a really amazing batch of audience just for the sake of the fact that we made it very affordable.
Shout out to Brenda Medina for not only coming to SOS, but like 2 days later, she was in Dominican Republic.
Oh,
After I saw her on Instagram, and she just gets around. I mean, that
I
unbelievable to get Tucson wasn't the easiest place to get to, and to be in the Dominican Republic 2 days later, like it's nothing. So we had a
yeah.
good turnout, I think, from our end, from the LICR. There was a lot of site owners I recognized from some of our Zoom meetups. Brenda, who I mentioned before, even one of the sponsors. No, wasn't the
Hmm.
Clin Connect
Oh,
folks?
Yes, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, they were there. I would like to say that there was a wide variety of diverse individuals, especially for site owners. I mean, I even had there was one lady I had met. She was a site owner, and she was from Hawaii, and she was teaching me a few things, and I thought it was awesome. There was a really great background. There was some I forget his name, but I know that you've worked with him, Dan. But he's young. I think he's 26, 27. He's from El Paso,
Ah,
Mexicano. He has a
yes.
site owner too.
Oh man, put me on the spot, but
I
we're
know.
gonna
Sorry.
interview him. We're we're gonna interview him. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're trying to get an interview.
So
He's
it
been
was
on
really
the
great.
webinars before too.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was awesome to see that, especially the ages too.
Mhm.
I personally always thought that, most of the site owners that I've met, were 35 and up. I had never met any that were in their 20s. It kind of even made me feel like, what are you doing? Why aren't you not having a site, of your own? But yeah, that was pretty cool. I really liked it. It was very inspiring. But even more so, I think seeing now the amount of people and from the backgrounds they came from, what the potential is and how we can really utilize LICR as a platform moving forward and to bring in that diversity aspect because we really didn't touch or focus on that too much because it was our first time conference and we only had a day, eight
I only had a
hours,
day.
or
Yeah.
even less than
Mhm.
8 hours, really. So yeah, I'm excited to.
Abraham Arzola, founder, site director at El Paso Clinical Trials.
There you go. Shout out, shout out.
The Rising Star, one of my favorites. Uh, And we have Vanessa's also from El Paso.
Oh well.
It's amazing,
Awesome.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
You need to go connect, right? Whether
Right.
you
Yes.
Yes.
Come. I mean,
There's
honestly,
actually a lot of I remember meeting a bunch of research people, site owners, various other backgrounds from Texas. So that stood out a lot. There was a lot of people there from Texas
people
and
from my
Arizona.
hometown.
David LaHaye's from he has a site in Rio Grande. Didn't you meet with
Yeah, so I
David?
actually shout out to David. Actually, I told him that, we have to do some sort of collaboration with LICR. So, yeah, I spoke with him. I got to go to his site here because I'm currently in the Rio Grande, which is super, super, super South Texas. If anybody thinks that San Antonio is the southest you can get, no, it's not. It's Rio Grande. But yeah, he has a site over here. And so he, invited me over. So I did. I went. I met some of his staff. Very awesome, really great stories we shared, and even potential ideas I gave them. Hopefully, we can, find a way to collaborate. But I met them. I also met Pinnacle, who is also here in South Texas. I didn't get to meet them, at least at their site. I saw them at the conference, but also points of collaboration as well, right? This is really great. I think we got to.
We had a panel and a breakout session on diversity. We couldn't not tackle that topic, especially with LICR being involved. But what? Let's assume next year's a 2 year thing or 2 day thing. Um, what would you guys do differently as far as getting the ENI or LICR more involved as far as like the content is concerned?
Mhm.
You go first, Judy.
Yeah, so I was on that panel and then the breakout afterwards, and I think there's just so many questions and so many things we could have gone over, and we only like touched upon a small aspect of it. We had three great panelists talking about different aspects of community outreach, what they're doing in their communities, the patient perspective, things to consider. But there's just so much under that and going deeper into it and what other sites are doing that we didn't really get to touch on, and I think there was a lot of questions. So the breakout session was actually really awesome because then all these people got to ask a little bit more details on, like, this is what I'm doing in my community, this is working, this is not working, what do you recommend. But again, even with the breakout session, I think we had like an hour at the most, and there was just some questions we couldn't get to. So I think I would definitely put more emphasis on that topic and do more of that throughout the conference. Maybe more breakout sections, some kind of small group discussions. So from what I understood is that there are people doing a lot of this recruitment, outreach, advertising, and it's working for some studies, not always others. They're not connecting with everybody in their community. Maybe they're not reaching the whole minority patient population. And so connecting with those that are kind of doing something or are doing something in that area and having a more detailed discussion. So I know that was a big topic. Also, all this work that sites are doing, they're not necessarily getting reimbursed. And that actually was a little shocking because I have been doing that for a long time, and I'm able to get, so much funds in our contracts and budget, and have been for years. And that hasn't been something that I get pushback. So to hear that sites that are actually doing this outreach, lunch and learns, and they're not getting anything from the sponsors, that was very disappointing to hear.
Hmm.
And shout out to
Wow.
Brenda, who you mentioned, because she actually was on our breakout room, and she was actually she ended up providing some feedback to the people there of, as a sponsor, on her perspective, she can, they are able to give you funds, but what you needed to do, the justification and why you
Hmm.
need funds. And so I think it's just, I wish there was maybe more sponsors, CROs there that we can talk to about this, because I'm so very surprised that a lot of sites said they were not getting this, or very minimal, or they're just doing it and just putting in the time to it and not getting anything back from it. So that was an interesting thing that I learned. But other than that, I think there's so much more, that we could have done with that topic.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Uh, would you like? Do you think we could if we have what, like another day and more time to get more tactical, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe how to make
Yeah.
a podcast in Spanish, or I don't know, like just very detailed stuff?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that also came up was a recruitment plan. So advertising outreach recruitment plan. Apparently not a lot of people do it. I did. I've shared it actually after the conference with several others, and they were like, "Oh my gosh,
Oh
thank you for
yeah, the one
sharing
you
it."
shared
So
with me,
yeah,
huh?
the one I shared with you
It
was
It's
worked,
really
that.
guys.
good. It's
It
really
worked.
detailed. Yeah.
So
That
actually,
was
I thought about it because I've heard all this great comments from it. Is actually doing a little workshop on that. Like, this is exactly how you're going to create this and why, and then go through it. Because apparently, not everybody is doing it.
hmm
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's something. So something like more hands-on. You go through examples. This is what I'm doing. This is how we're getting fun. I think
like
because it's a
actionable.
lot of, yeah, right. Like I can show you kind of like the other panels where they kind of went through a scenario with a contract and
Well,
budget, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
I was gonna say in our panel, the first one we did,
Oh,
me and
right, right.
you brought something super actionable. A lot of people like still talking about it with the personality test.
Yeah.
Right.
So we need
I
stuff
mean, there's
like that.
various tests you could do, right? There's
Yeah,
computer tests and all this stuff to assess potential candidates. Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely things that like actionable things we want to give people um for next time too, like
Mhm.
especially as it pertains to recruitment and diversity. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to 2025 now.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think for me, well, one thing that I actually learned, like I said, when I met with David LaHaye afterwards, we started talking about, I guess, my previous experience, like just in general with the industry, but also what I would do before I was in the industry. And I talked about when I was here at the university and how I actually was able to help conduct a really huge kind of like a medical fair for people in the colonias, right? And for those of you that don't know what the colonias are, it's like actual subsections of very rural areas in rural areas that, usually people don't even have cars, they don't have modes of transportation, all sorts of things like that, right? And so over here, that's very common. And well, ultimately, we got a bunch. We got a school, we got different doctors, churches, and even university students and medical programs in the universities to come together and to do this event for free. Everything was free. We even got buses to, truck in all these individuals from the colonias that would have otherwise never have had this exposure or access to medical care, right? And so I went over the step by step with David LaHaye and his team, and they were kind of like mind blown. And I realized that this is actually something that people could potentially do all over. They just don't realize that there's certain areas that they can actually resource. And so that's something I think I'd like to talk about step by step on how to do that and what groups you would have to reach out to. And yeah, pretty much making it free unless you want to do extra
Yeah.
marketing or whatever. But
Right.
so there's that. Oh, sorry. The other thing I would very much like to do is find a way to incorporate, all the other diversity organizations and potentially, have some speaking time, not so much on the panel probably, but like on a deep dive or in a breakout session where we're able to discuss different aspects from these different organizations or like talk-ins or something interesting and different, not what you're normally used to seeing, where you just kind of ask questions all the time, right? I want to something very interactive, especially if you're having groups from all over the country. And in this case, we had people from other actual countries show up from Chile, Argentina, Netherlands, from
That's
all
right.
over.
Wow.
Yeah, we had people from all over.
One of the comments, we're getting comments like not showing up here, but one of them, Marissa says, "How can you boost recruitment and focus on DE and I in rare disease when it's such a difficult area already?" And the
What
answer is, I don't know, because
the answer
for
is
those rare disease, you're trying to get anyone. You don't really necessarily pay attention to race and demographics. You're just happy anyone's interested in doing it in the first place. Rare disease is super unique, but maybe that's another topic panel we need to have because we didn't really address that
mm,
in this
Mhm.
SOS. We didn't
yeah.
have time for rare disease.
I mean, I would say something that I keep hearing, I've been sitting in on and like kind of listening to, oops, slowing down, I think. But anyways, I've been listening into a lot of podcasts lately, and hearing a lot of different conversations on that. And I feel that one of the things is, we're so focused on patients, but not really also paying as much attention to your network to physicians. It doesn't mean that your physician has to necessarily be within your site's scope of work where they're actually working, but I think that if you can can do some sort of aspect of having a series of specialists somewhat involved in some way, shape, or form. And again, I'm fairly new to this because I'm not a site owner, but if there's a way around that, because I think as some specialists, are getting close to retirement, they're wanting something a little bit more relaxed or not as hectic or heavy as a private, regular clinic is wanting, which is very fast paced. I feel like you're going to start seeing a lot of older physicians coming into, especially specialists coming into the research sector and, trying to do X, Y, or Z. And I think when you have those kinds of physicians coming in, they know more people, they speak to other people, and
Should
you're
have
able
Dr.
to,
Al on that panel. He does some rare
yeah,
cancer stuff too.
yeah. Well, Dr. Al Jazirli, he's definitely has his diverse background as well, so it's perfect.
Um, some of the sponsor. So we one of the things we talked about when it comes to DEI were we had sponsors in attendance. So
Hmm.
sponsor people from drug companies there
Hmm.
and CROs.
I feel like they're scoping us out.
They're
Right.
scoping us out. So next
Yeah.
year we'll probably have a couple,
Hmm.
hopefully. But and some of them that were there were very interested in the stuff. Actually, they
Mhm.
all should be, but some are more than others. Uh, did you hear anything back from them? Either of you guys?
No, not so much. I think I agree they were there to just see, how the conference was going to go. I definitely would like to get a lot more involved on the panels, breakout sessions, small groups, whatever it is that we end up doing, because a lot of these discussions need to involve sponsor CROs. As a site, if this is what we need, how do we do it? And then having a
Hmm.
sponsor CRO, we have these conversations. There's things that we don't realize that happens, obviously, on the back end sponsor CRO. And I think if we're pretty clear on what we need to provide to in order to get what we need, I think that can help clear up a lot of things because sometimes we don't always know as a site, right? We think they're not going to support us or give us what we need, but they will. They just need a little bit more from us or more information, more justification. And I don't think everybody is always so clear on that.
I did get to speak with three, and like you said, they were there to scope us out, so not necessarily. So I'm not going to say their name or where they were from specifically, but there were three. One of them did specify that it was something that this person had been looking forward to seeing in the industry for some time, and was happy to see that it's finally coming to fruition. So that obviously made me very happy to hear that. And the two others specifically were they pretty much said that, it was very interesting our approach. They really like seeing the engagement that they had never seen that engagement before, which that's something we were hearing all the way since even before the day of the conference in the pre-party, right? And so the engagement and also the fact that there was such a large amount of sites and even more so that they were interested to see that there was people there that were getting ready to open their sites. And so I
A
think that it's
lot
going
of
to
that.
yeah, a lot of that. And so and I think I really like that and I'm happy about that because it lets us know that we have the opportunity, not just as SOS, but through LICR to really help kind of there's always talk about grassroots and diversity discussions, but this is truly an opportunity for us to step in at the very point of creation and make that difference in the community, right? Because,
Yeah.
these sites are going to be barely implementing their first, points of aspect of how they're going to recruit and how they're going to interact with the community, even if outside of recruitment, right? Just in general interaction. And I think that that's a really great opportunity and maybe guide or help educate as much as we possibly can, and it's definitely an awesome opportunity.
I wasn't counting, but one of the things that you just reminded me of one of the things I was excited about when I was there, just meeting people and people telling me what their plans are, and it was like super humbling, first of all, and I don't throw that word around lightly. It's people actually coming up saying, you know what, I'm gonna start a site, and it's anecdotal. I didn't actually take a poll, but I used my eyeballs. Like the majority were minorities that were wanting to start sites. Like they were
Yep.
African American, they were Hispanic, there was an Asian person, there was like a lot. There was white people, of course, too, but it
Mhm.
was a good amount, like the majority of the people saying, "Hey, I'm currently a CRA. I want to start a site. My wife's currently a CRA. I want to start a site. I'm a CRC. I want to." The majority were minority, and I think to speak to your point, to truly make an impact on this DEI, like that E for equity, like
Hmm.
I talk about it all the time. That's true equity is like bringing it back in the communities that we live.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's just like, as we talk about here, just like patients, right? If they don't have access to resources, most of them either don't get into the research or into the trial, or they don't get their family into the trial, or they don't even know that the trial is happening, right? And I really felt like this was just a different version of that, where you have individuals, you can say from rural backgrounds and or diverse backgrounds that, barely starting, funds are low, all those kinds of things, just like what we see naturally within our population. And I mean, we had that opportunity to give them the space to come to financially be able to make it to an actual event that is helpful but also affordable. And everybody there generally wants to help, and I feel like it's just a perfect example is if we can continue to give this, provide and provide, and they're going to use this as a resource, right? And I want to make sure that LICR is definitely at the forefront of that, and on the educational background end of things, because it's great to know about finances, it's great to know about the inner workings about trials and all of those things, but ultimately, for you to even to get to that point, you need to be able to engage your community effectively. And
Mhm.
so I think
Yeah.
we're going to be there good that for that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely, like I mentioned, I think a majority of the people I spoke to were site owners or admin management directors. But I mean, you can put everything into place, but if you don't know how to recruit or connect with your community to find these participants, as well as collaborate with clinics, physicians, then you're not going to find the patients that you need, whether you're standalone or you're connected with an investigator. Eventually, you're going to have to do some outreach and have to find patients outside of that clinic setting. So you have to figure out how to do that. And I kind of want to bring up what Monair had mentioned on our panel is, and it was, I don't know if it's on the panel, I think it was on the, maybe in the breakout session, where she had mentioned that not everybody is probably going to be an expert on community outreach, but find that person in your community that is an expert to connect with that minority population, whether a specific group, someone who can be your advocate. I think that's what she called it, be your community advocate. So find that person, and have that collaboration with those people in your communities in order to get the information that you need to that patient population.
Mm,
And so I think that was really important, because that's something that not a lot of us think about, is we want to do it all, right? We can't do it all. And sometimes we're not that experienced. We don't all have this marketing outreach background, but who in our community does, or who is already working with specific patients in the community that we want to reach out to, then connect
mhm,
with that person to share that information, and just continue to collaborate with them. So I think that was really important.
And that relates to panel one. And Marissa, thank you for your comments. It's not showing up on StreamYard. I don't know. All the tech stuff's not working right today.
yeah.
But she's saying, would LICR/SOS want to conduct a webinar for SOCRA, which could open up industry partnerships and potential membership?
I
So
mean, I
yes,
think
Oh,
that would be
nice.
beautiful. I mean, ultimately, that is the goal, right? The goal is to, I mean, of course, granted that all the other organizations that are part of these ideas, right, are open and willing, because, you know, we want to collaborate. We understand that this is a cross industry effort. I mean, of course, we all have our own thoughts and opinions about certain things, but nonetheless, we're all here ultimately for change. And in order to bring the change, we have to all just ultimately lock arms, right? And if that really is, the case of what everybody's wanting, then doesn't matter from which point stance that I think the organization that you're running or founding, right? Ultimately, we're all in there for the same goal and can help each other because we all have different focuses, right? And so, or main pinpoints that we're focusing on. But yeah, I think that would be great.
SOCRA for sure.
Yes,
Yeah, we would
for sure.
love to have. I'm not sure if anyone. There were CRAs there. I'll tell you that at SOS
Yeah,
there were
Yes.
CRAs.
a
Yes.
good
Um,
amount.
and
Mhm.
a lot of the entrepreneurial types, a lot of the ones that are out there. But this relates, Judy, to panel one we did again.
Mhm.
Uh, selecting your coordinator, like what skill set. And one of the things we got feedback from was, hey, you haven't talked about recruitment at all. And it's true. Like, we kind of overlooked it, not because, I mean, we know how to run sites, and you and I and everyone on there hires for recruitment, but
Mhm.
it just showed you, like, when push comes to shove and you only have 6 minutes to come up with a plan, like,
Yeah.
recruitment didn't come up. And
Right.
recruitment's super important. Lana, one of my CRCs, every Thursday now here in Yuma, she's got a booth at the Yuma Jazz Fest, and we're getting like 10 people every time she goes, just pre-screening
Jazz
people for various
Fest?
That's
studies.
good.
Yeah, Yuma Jazz
That's
Fest.
cool.
That's nice.
And she's like a out in the community, like what Judy was just talking about. It's important to hire for that skill set too.
Right. Well, it's
Mhm.
funny that you mentioned that because we collected a lot of information, right, that people filled out on postcards and didn't get to every single one, and actually have an Excel sheet, which I guess I got to share with you.
Yeah.
And this did come up. Actually, there was a lot of people that stated who, when they're hiring someone, that they can do some of this recruitment outreach, the personality to be able to talk to patients, to get them into studies, specific wording that people use. So that actually was on some of the postcards that people filled out. Not as much as other topics that we brought up.
Something that I forgot to tell you now that you're bringing that up, Judy. Some of the things that when we were talking about the staffing, right? That panel,
Mhm.
I heard that one about the pen and all of that. I thought that was really funny. I liked it. But one of the
Nick,
things
shout out
Oh
is,
Nick.
yeah,
What's
Nick.
up?
yeah, Nick,
That's
Nick
it. You know
Foso.
that I hadn't heard about that one
Can
before.
you re-explain that, like, just so people, like, for 30 seconds? So
Hmm.
that was a good one for people that missed it.
Oh, Judy.
So I believe what I understood from it is when he's interviewing a candidate, he sets up the room or the table where the candidate's going to sit a certain way with a pen, and I'm not sure what else he said, a certain way. And then when the candidate comes in, he's interviewing them. He sees like what they do with it, right? I believe that was it, Dan.
Yeah, and I
To
was
see if they move it, like, and then I guess that tells them a lot about
if they're
each candidate,
organized, and
right?
it's so funny because before he even got to that point, saying his reasoning for it,
Mhm.
I was like, "Why would he mess with the pen? I'm immediately gonna go and fix it." And then he said, "Oh, if they fix it, I know they're organized." And I started
Right.
laughing in the background because I was like, "Yeah, that's something I would do."
That's
But
funny.
one of the things that I think would be interesting is also when you're interviewing them, it's always very focused on, okay, if you can do the job, explain this, explain that about the position, XYZ. But if you're going to come across a candidate that actually looks really promising, but they don't have a lot of
Mhm.
experience, I personally would, if I was interviewing them, I'd focus in on what their ideas were, given the concept of
Mhm.
what you're trying to look at, and say, how would you engage the community,
Right.
right? Like, what kind of things what resources would you access? What would you try to do? Especially if they don't know much about actual
Right.
research resources, you're
Mhm.
going to get a lot more of a raw perspective just on community
Right.
reach, I guess you could say, not
Yeah.
outreach to the patient, but like what they would
Mhm.
do. Would they go to a certain store or whatever? I think that that's something
Yeah.
interesting. I don't think a lot of people ask those kinds
And
of
we
questions.
actually do like
You
scenario
do?
questions. Yeah, we
Mhm.
actually have done that recently on the candidates we hired. And, if you had to do this, what would you do? And I think some of the questions were related to that. Like, if we had to go find participants for the study, where would you go? And those that can think outside the box or even give you a really good answer, even though they don't know much about research,
Yeah.
says a lot. And actually, that's how we hired one of the pre screener recruiters we have that we also use for our marketing outreach. We were at that time we were interviewing people only going to hire one position,
Hmm.
which was I believe a research assistant. But when we interviewed this other candidate, she knew nothing about research, but she went to the website, she read about it, she came back and kind of, gave us a little overview of what she thought we did, and she was really interested in it. And then I don't know how the conversation came out to where she's like, yeah, I like what you guys do, and if I could, if I worked here, I would want to go share the information with the field farm workers, because that's, she had a lot of family that worked there. And she just came up with this whole, like, how she was going to
Idea.
recruit patients when she had no research background. And so then we decided to actually hire her. So we hired two candidates instead of one, because that was another position we were looking to fill. We just weren't going to fill it right away. And so because she came with that
Hmm.
answer and what she brought to the table, we're like, oh, this is what we can use her in. And we ended up filling her, putting in that role, even though we weren't ready to. But it was kind of, so you never know, right, how your
Yeah.
interview is going to go. So that was that's for all of those out there, like
Yeah.
come ready for the interviews. And definitely, if you have ideas on what you think you could bring to the table for that business, that role,
Hmm.
share it, because that's what we want to hear as people that are hiring these candidates.
100%.
Yeah, Victor, your site director, we just did a podcast. I'll release it next week, but he came to the interview with a plan, like
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
not
saw
just
that.
ideas, like a plan.
like
I saw you
a
guys
binder,
live.
a binder plan.
Wow,
Oh no, I don't think I have it here anymore. But it shows
that's crazy.
with
But
tabs,
yeah,
with
out of the
tabs.
box stuff. If you want out of the like, if you want non-conventional results, which is more minority participation, more diversity, you need to do non-traditional things. Like
Mhm,
traditional is like a flyer. Let's have a Facebook. I mean,
Hmm.
for some sites, that's like not even traditional. That's like out of the box. But like non-traditional, it's like what you just said: field workers,
mhm,
farm or agriculture worker. Like, how are you reaching these communities?
Hmm.
Um, Lunch and Learns is also like kind of outside the box because people don't really do it. Like
Hmm.
you're
mhm,
supposed to be doing it. I understand why sites don't do it; they don't get reimbursed for it. But at some point, it's nice if a sponsor reimburses you. But
mhm.
at some point, it's also like in your business's best interest to do
An
it as part of
investment.
branding.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. An investment. Hmm.
Yeah, something that actually just got brought up to me yesterday, as a matter of fact, was, so LICR, like, how were you guys, involved with SOS, and how exactly are you helping the diversity community, and all of that? And I said, well, and it was kind of compared to other diverse organizations, and I said, well, the one that we were compared to, I said, well, the focus is very different, right? So I guess to clarify what LIC our kind of our current focus right now is more of, again, bringing free education, free knowledge to the industry, to our audience, right? Because ultimately, you know, um, if you really want to talk grassroots approach, it's to those that are trying to get in, whether it's through research, the knowledge of research, or potentially maybe doing a career in, right? I feel that, for those that are looking for work, right, that are looking to get placed, that is a whole monster in itself, right? And I'm sure Judy and Dan can agree to that, to the point where you can even become like your own recruitment company. And, we don't want to necessarily stray away from the focus, which is bringing free education to the community, because, you know, I think that's kind of where the lack of currently already is. Even when you're talking about sites, even when you're talking about sponsors that have money to put into the community, there's still a lack of knowledge out there, right? And so this is kind of one of the things that we're doing here. And by collaborating with SOS, we'll be able to not only connect with these sites and or new incoming sites, right, but also, because we are free content, that is something that can be given to their diverse groups that they are that they're screening and all of that, so that they can come and still watch this content. So, just to kind of give a little bit of viewpoint of that, because I know that there's a lot of different organizations out there doing different types of things. And so that's really the focus that we have right now. This is where we're coming in through SOS, because you have to find different ways and variations to be able to, approach the community and provide that education.
Right. And I wanted to add the founders, co-founders of LICR. Most of us are site owners. We've been in the industry for many, many years. We have firsthand experience. We're working with patients at our site. We're doing all of this that we speak of, which is why we talk about it, because it's our personal experience on these issues that we talk about, or things that we hope could help others, right?
Mhm.
And maybe they can be a little bit better at it, or not have to struggle what we did when we did years ago when we started, or over the years.
I mean, I was surprised. I guess I shouldn't be in hindsight, but the entrepreneurial spirit of the attendees,
Mhm.
like most conferences you go to, you get like, job seekers, you get people working. This was like people, yeah, you might be a CRC or a coordinator, but you're looking for like, maybe I should do consulting, maybe I could create this company. And in hindsight, it shouldn't be surprising because, like you said, LICR, like all the founders are entrepreneurs, like blue-blooded entrepreneur. I mean, you can't be more entrepreneur than who we are at LICR. And same thing with SOS. When you throw in Brad and Dr. Fox, it's a bunch of entrepreneurs. So it makes sense that that spirit is reflected in the attendees as well. And
Hmm.
I was just surprised because I've gone to Scope and all these other things, ACRP. I'm actually going in May. If you guys come, let's do something in Anaheim. But you don't get that same
Mm-mm.
vibe.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, and I want to make sure that we didn't get to do that this year, but next year for sure we will ensure that we can actually, provide some sponsorship. How much I don't know, but at least, minimum one, but maximum I would like to gauge around five, maybe even more if possible, from LICR to give, some of our audience here the opportunity
Mm.
to go and actually see, otherwise that they would not have had the opportunity, right? And so something to note, you guys, we will be obviously coming on here monthly, but we'll also be doing live podcasts on the SOS as well, just kind of how we are here and going into depth about those things. So if you did not get to go to SOS, if you didn't know about it till the very end, and didn't know how we do the same thing. We engage the community to ensure that we are planning everything according to y'all's needs, what you want to hear, what you want to learn, and not, this is what we're teaching and that's it, right? So if that is something that interests you, please, check in on us. We will be doing our own, me, Judy, and Monica. She's not here right now. She's in Colombia at the moment. So shout out to Monica.
Mhm.
But we will be doing lives, me, her, and Judy, and then sometimes we'll be coming on with Dan Fox and Brad as well. And so we would really love to see you guys there. We want to see our LICR support there, and just to get your feedback, even if you don't plan on going, right? Because again, we're going to try to do as much as we can to bring on the DEI conversation in an actual doable way, not that basic, you know, surface
High level.
viewpoint, high level, or I like to call it the froofy talk where you're just giving power words or whatever. Like nothing like that. We're actually going to have the real conversations, right? And so we hope to see you there.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Marissa. We will email you. I just connected with you on LinkedIn, so she wants to learn more about how we could collab with Sokra. So
Right.
absolutely,
Great,
Yeah,
great.
actually, hello, Marissa. I don't know. I think I spoke with you once. If this is the Marissa I'm thinking, if not, please
Marissa
excuse me.
Bielecki.
Bialicki. Oh gosh, I don't remember the last name. But anyways, if it is you, hello.
And if it's not you, hello.
Yes, if it's not you, hello as well. Awesome. Well, I
But
don't know,
thank
you
you.
guys. Do you have anything else you want to bring up?
Follow
No.
our LICR page, Latinas in Clinical Research
Mhm.
LinkedIn, because in the future, starting next month, we'll go live from directly from the LinkedIn page there.
Yes, we will be bringing on some people very soon. We got met a lot of potential interviewers for or interviewees for LICR podcast. So you'll be seeing them very shortly, I'm sure.
Yep. Looking
Connect with
forward
Awesome.
to
Judy for
it.
sure.
Yeah. And if
We'll
you are
connect with
interested,
Judy
connect with us.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Like,
All right.
subscribe, comment, share. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.